Happy Sunday.
This
Bye.
is a hunt.
No, it's not having an Easter egg hunt. So everybody bye.
Bye. And this hunt.
And an Easter egg hunt. Okay, you're telling everybody to do an Easter egg hunt?
When it is hunt. And when it's no day, you can do that.
Okay, they can do that. All right, tell them bye.
Like.
Okay. Today, we're going to do something different. I think I've been hopping around a lot lately. I don't think I've stuck with one subject the past 2 or 3 weeks. And so this week is no different. I was in Matt's office this week, and I just looked on the bookshelf, and I kind of have just a little slither of a section on one of his bookshelves. And I found this book, and it says, How Shall I Be Remembered? And it has been, my dad's birthday was this past Monday. And so it's the first birthday we've had since he's been gone, and that's kind of been on my mind. And so this title struck me. So I picked it up and I read it, and on the inside cover, it has Geraldine Thigpen. Now that means nothing to you all watching this, but it means something to me, and it definitely means something to Matt. And this is his grandmother's book. And in here, she has written all the answers to every question. When she has done this study, I don't know if she taught this class or if it was a class she was in. So it just caught my attention, and I started looking through it. And the title of it is How Shall I Be Remembered? In Good Works, in Faith, in Knowledge, in Attitude, in Courage, in Example, in Self-Control, in Love, in Brotherly Kindness, in Hospitality, in Patience, in Suffering, and in the Day of Judgment. And so, like I said, I was just looking through it, and I wanted to start with, how shall I be remembered for my example? And so that's what we're going to talk about. And I know we've talked about being examples in past devos, so we're not going to hound this. This devo is going to be a little bit shorter than the other ones, but I want to hopefully take a little bit of viewpoint than in the past devotionals for when we talked about examples. And we're going to go to 1 Timothy 4:12, and it says, Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, in purity. So right here in 1 Timothy, that tells us that we're supposed to be an example in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity. So there's 5 ways we're already supposed to be an example. Matthew 5:16, in the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father who is in heaven. Where it says see your good works, not hear about your good works, not brag about your good works, not just do good works for recognition, but see your good works and give glory to the Father who is in heaven. These 2 verses, and there's other ones in the Bible, tell us that as Christians, we are to set examples for others. Not just for our family, not just for our friends, not just for our coworkers, for everybody. From the time our feet hit the floor in the morning to the time they go back to bed at night, we are setting an example for somebody. And as Christian women, we have a great responsibility before us setting the right example. Will I be remembered for the good example I have left others? Or did I set a bad example? If I am to be pleasing to God, I must be a good example to those within the church and those without. Women have a tremendous influence in the world. Why not let that influence be for good? Like we've talked about before, an example is Naomi. The influence she had on Ruth, a wonderful influence, a great influence. And we've talked about that before. Her influence was for good. We have different ways to serve as examples each and every day. We serve as a daughter, a wife, a mother, a grandmother, a widow, a friend, an employer, an employee, a neighbor, a relative, or maybe just a fellow Christian. Everybody listening falls into one of those categories. If you are a living human being, you fall into one of those categories. How are you setting an example in that category? The Bible is full of good and bad examples of people, so we're going to look at a couple of them. And we're going to start with the greatest example of all. And hopefully you all know the greatest example is Jesus. And we're going to read Hebrews 4, verses 15. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who is in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. So, we have an example. He was human. He was respected. He's the greatest of all examples. He can sympathize with everything we are going through. He has been there. He has done that. He's been tempted. The only thing he didn't have that we have is sin. But yet we still can look to him as an example. This verse tells us that Jesus went through everything we do. So we can look to him as an example. And since he was perfect in every way, it's a good example to follow. No, we cannot be perfect, but we are expected to do our very best and try. Our ultimate goal should be each and every day to live like Jesus lived, to be like Jesus. So we're going to talk about two examples, one good and one bad. And I'm going to start off with the bad example. Obviously, Jesus is the ultimate example. He is the perfect example. So now I'm going to talk about a more human, I don't want to say human, someone with a fault. And we're going to start with the bad one, and it's Cain. Now, again, there are several bad people in the Bible. But I chose Cain. Was he a good example or a bad one? Well, I've already told you he's a bad one. We know he killed his brother Abel. And why did he kill him? Because of jealousy. His brother's sacrifice was accepting to God. Cain's was not. And we know that when God rejected Cain's offering, he rejected it because it was not pleasing to him. And what did Cain do? He went out and killed his brother. And we see in Genesis 4:17, it says, Then Cain went away from the presence of the Lord and settled in the land of Nod, east of Eden. And if we continue to read, we see in that verse, Cain went away. He was so mad at God, he left God. God was no longer in his life. And if we continue to read the full account of Cain, does his life turn around? Does he have a great life, a fruitful life? No. We see nothing good happens to Cain from that point on. Not from his children, not from their children, not from their children, all the way down his line. All of his descendants, nothing but sin, nothing but bad things. Why? He left God. When he left God, evil followed him. When we leave God, nothing good's going to come from it. Evil is going to surround us. Are we like Cain? Have we left the Lord? Do we feel like we are just drowning in sin? That we just feel like everywhere we look, there's no way to turn, there's no way out? It's always the wrong choices? Are we like Cain? If we are like Cain, we need to change. We need to look at who our examples are that we're looking up to, maybe change our examples. We need to look at what kind of example we're giving others if we are a Cain. A good example is Joshua. Joshua chose to serve the Lord and not depart from his commitment. And we all know the famous verse in Joshua, and I should have wrote it down. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. The most famous Joshua verse to me. When you say Joshua, I think of that. And as long as Joshua lived, his influence permeated the lives of those he touched. His example lasted a lifetime. Now, his was a good example. Cain's was a bad example. Cain's lasted a lifetime too. So whatever example we are setting, it's for a lifetime. So we need to make sure that we are setting the right example. We also need to realize a lot of people have the mindset that, well, I don't care about anybody else. I just care about me. My choices only affect me and nobody else. We have to realize our example affects not only those who live with us, whether it's good or bad, but influences our generations to come. We've got to think about that. As a parent to my two children, Matt and my example to our children is going to be passed on to their children. And where are their children going to learn from? Our children. So then their grandchildren are going to learn, but where does it ultimately come back to? Us. So even though Austin and Elizabeth aren't going to have kids for 30, 40 years down the road, probably not 40, 30 years down the road, my influence today is going to affect them. Kids that I don't even know about yet. People in Elizabeth and Austin's life that they meet, whether it's school, whether it's extracurricular activities, when they get a job, whether it's the friends they make, our influence impacts them. Our examples impact them. And we think about generations like that, like us and my children and their children. We think about Timothy, don't we? And it's another and probably most famous example of influence being passed on in the Bible. We have his grandmother Eunice, his mother Lois, and then we have Timothy. Without the influence of his grandmother onto his mother, onto him, would Timothy have been as good of an example as he was? Probably not. He had great examples to look up to. Who are we looking up to as our example? Do we have great examples we're looking up to? Like I've said many times before, we are the example to all of those around us every single day. And with all that is going on in this world today, we need more people to be like Jesus and showing Christian examples. We are to be an example to everyone. And like I have said before, it could be as simple as giving your mail person, your or mail carrier, your garbage men a bottle of water, a piece of candy, a card that says thanks for what you do. It could be the simple clerk at the city hall that when you go to pay your water bill and she might not be having the best of the day, say, hey, be friendly, smile, thank you. Probably won't be returned. I haven't had one returned yet, but yet you're setting the good example. When you go to do whatever, when you're at the grocery store, or a lot of people are doing the grocery pickup, how do you react when they come up to your car? Are you friendly? Or are you like, yeah, whatever? Or do you get mad because they don't have something that you wanted? Those seem like very petty examples, but you are being an example. There's a lot of young kids that work at the grocery stores, that work at the fast food restaurants. What kind of example are you showing to them when you go through your drive-thru and they may have made a mistake and got your order wrong, or they forgot something, or they rang something up wrong, or they charged you extra for something? It may have been a simple mistake, but the way you react is an influence on them. Are you a good example of what a person should be, or are you a bad example? A lot of people don't think of that being an example. And I'm going to hit home on this right now, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for it. It's not up for debate. I don't want it to be a debate. I'm just going to make a simple statement. Everybody knows now this Delta variant that's out, that's spreading rampantly. We have the confrontation of mask, no mask, shot, no shot. And the ugliness, the bickering back and forth that is all over social media, the nasty phone calls people are giving each other, the nasty texts saying if you believe this one way, then you're wrong, and if you don't believe my way, you're wrong. What example are we showing? Are we showing the Jesus example? Now, I'm not saying you're right if you have the shot and you're wrong if you don't, or vice versa. I'm not saying you're wrong if you wear a mask and you're right. I'm not. I'm not getting in that debate. That's an individual decision from my point. It's an individual decision everybody needs to make. But think about it. And the reason I brought that up today is because that is exactly what is going on. It has been going on for a month, especially with school starting back. And there's been a lot of confrontation going on in the school. If a child wears a mask, they're made fun of. If they don't wear a mask, they're made fun of. If they don't wear the right type of one, they're made fun of. What example are we setting? What example as adults, when they see us bickering? You can ask my children. They've heard Matt and I talk about it. They've witnessed the phone calls. What example are Matt and I showing when we handle this situation? Are we showing a Christian loving example? Are we showing them that maybe if someone disagrees with us, or if we disagree with them on a certain issue, whether it be the COVID issue, or whether it be a modesty issue, or whether it be a language issue, what example are we showing? And an example in the book, and I've heard all my life, but I kind of disagree with it, and I'll tell you why in a minute, and I think I've used this example before. We have heard the example, you can't be doing something and tell your children not to. And what I mean by that is you can't have a cigarette in your mouth and go to your children and say, now you don't smoke. It's bad for you. You don't smoke. Or you don't drink. It causes problems, and yet you have a drink in your hand. Now, I say that because I had a parent who smoked. I've never touched a cigarette in my life. I've never lit one. I've never wanted to. It was not beat over our heads. This is bad. Don't do it. We were told, what everybody else is told, it's not good for you. I don't want you doing it. Every day of my life. Every day of my life. I saw this person smoke. Every day. Now, I cannot say that her influence influenced me. I don't know what it did. I just didn't have an interest to do it. And to my knowledge, my 3 brothers and sisters haven't smoked. If they have, it went for very long, or they're hiding it very well. Maybe they are. I don't know. But so I can't say that if you are a smoker, that your children will be a smoker. Is there a greater possibility? Probably. I don't know all the statistics, but you all know what I'm getting at. We've used this example several times. Monkey see, monkey do, right? I think about it with an attitude. I've had a really rough day on Saturday. My attitude wasn't what it should be. Matt wasn't home. I was home by myself, and I just let things get to me. What example did I show my kids? I see it in Elizabeth all the time. She pops off. She gets smart. When she gets frustrated, she yells. Why? Because that's what I do. I raise my voice. I get upset. I yell. Now, Austin just throws things. He's in his mood where he throws things. I don't throw things. I'm not violent. I yell. I get mad. And I see that. And if I'm setting the example for my children, so I need to stop in the moment and think about it. Hey, this person doesn't agree with me. It's okay. Or, hey, I need to take this and calm it down a notch. My kids are watching. I need to see what kind of example. But on the flip side of that, going back to the garbage men, going back to the mail lady, you can ask my children what their favorite things to do is. Every Tuesday and Friday at 3:30, they're out in that driveway. Every Tuesday and Friday. They wait for it. And Elizabeth was so excited this Tuesday. We were out in the backyard, and Mama, they're coming. I hear them, they're coming. And she takes off running through the house, gets the water, and is out in the driveway before I can get in the backyard of the house. Now, they were a street over, hadn't even come to our street. She thought for sure they were on our street and she was going to miss them. That means more to me. That makes up to me for the times that I might get mad. Hey, I'm doing something right. That's the example I want her to be. That's the example that I want her to show others, to be kind to others. So that's kind of a side note. So not just talking about examples, but every single day. Now, that's a great example on Tuesday and Friday. But we just had this discussion in school this week about how do we show examples, and we don't have to let everybody know. And one of the questions was, what do you do for others that nobody has any idea about? And she had to stop for a while and think about it. And she finally came up with one. But of course, she's young. I mean, she's little. She's not an adult. But as an adult, if I said, as an example, what did you do for somebody today that nobody knows about? Could you answer it? Could you answer it? A loving Christian example, being like Jesus. Could you say, yes, I did this for somebody today? Like I said, today we talked about being an example as a person. In the following weeks, we're going to talk about biblical examples in our words, in our manner of life, in love, in faith, and in purity. So I hope everybody has a great week. I know this Sunday has been a little different because we are shut down again, at least for this week. I hope everybody stays healthy, stays safe, and has a great week. And I will see you all here next Sunday.